Hey, what's poppin', everybody? No recap. We didn't post any picks yesterday. We took the day off to kind of reevaluate some things. We have been ice cold, but we're going to go ahead and attack it today. We've got 3 preseason games, so I'm going to give you guys some preseason props today. I'm going to come in hot with my favorite pick of the day today. My lock of the day is going to be Jalen Reagor of the Philadelphia Eagles. Last week we took his under. This week we're going to take his over 2.0 receptions. The thing I'm liking the most here about Jalen Reagor, he had 4 targets last week, had 3 receptions. Had a great connection with him and Minshew. Him and Gardner Minshew were connecting well last week. Also played 26 snaps in that last week's preseason game. No starters again for the Eagles today. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, those guys aren't playing. So he's going to be one of the top guys on the target list. And per the Philly voice, I've gone and kind of attacked the preseason a little bit differently. I've gone and looked at how players are playing in practice, how they're doing in joint practices and stuff like that. So per the Philly voice, a reporter for the Philadelphia Eagles, he has said that Jalen Reagor, and quoting on this one, has caught passes in volume today in their joint practice with the Cleveland Browns. I've made this observation in the past practice notes, but it bears repeating that Reagor is having the best camp of his career. He has been playing fantastic in practice, had a great week 1. Him and Minshew were connecting well. They've got his receptions at 2.0 again this week. He had 3 receptions last week. I'm liking Jalen Reagor a lot today versus the Browns to have a solid game today, as he's been having solid practices in their joint practices as well. Give me Jalen Reagor over 2.0 receptions today. Real quick, if you guys are new to Underdog Fantasy, make sure that you there's a link down in the description I have that automatically takes you to the App Store where you can download Underdog Fantasy. Also throws in my TAKEMYSHOT code when you guys sign up for that. So when you make your first deposit, it helps me out big time, as well as it gives you a 100% deposit match up to $100. So if you throw in $20, for example, you'll get actually $40, and they'll give you another $20 free just to bet on for funsies, a little risk-free bets for fun. And so that is always nice as well to get those risk-free bets. Also helps me out, like I said, big time if you guys use my code TAKEMYSHOT. Because all my picks every single day are always going to be Underdog Fantasy picks. I think it's the best player prop betting app out there. With that being said, now let's get to today's picks. Next up, we'll head over to a wide receiver again. Give me Shemar Bridges today. Over 2.5 receptions. The Ravens today are another team that's also coming into this game a little bit banged up. They have 12 receivers on their roster, and only 6 of them are eligible to play tonight. Eligible to play because a lot of guys are injured, and then of course they're sitting their main guys like Bateman and Duvernay and stuff like that. So they're only playing 6 receivers. Most of the time you got about 2 to 3 receivers on the field at all times. A lot of these guys at the bottom of the depth chart are trying to make the team. Shemar Bridges was an absolute star in week 1, had 5 targets on 4 receptions, had about 60 yards or 40 yards receiving, somewhere in that range. He's now the focal point of that second kind of group of the offense there. Him and Polk shouldn't be entail for a lot of receptions today. Him and the backup quarterback for the Ravens, or the third string quarterback for the Ravens, let me get his name real quick, I forget his name. Anthony Brown, they connected a couple of times. Him and Huntley connected a couple of times. Has a great connection with both of those quarterbacks. They got a line set at 2.5, and I think it's just way too low. So give me the under for Shemar Bridges today for the Baltimore Ravens, or give me the over for Shemar Bridges over 2.5 yards or 2.5 catches today as our third play. Next up here, we're going to go to the Giants game. Give me Antonio Williams under 42.5 yards of receiving and rushing. I think this line is just way too high for him. Here's why. Again, I've gone a lot to the camp notes and to individual team reporters to figure out what's going on with all these teams. Giants are super banged up at the offensive line. So much so that the Giants head coach was scared to start starters this week because he's scared they're going to get crushed in the offensive line. He said they're really banged up front and he doesn't want to hurt anybody. And they have no depth at the O-line position either. So it's going to be a long night for the quarterbacks and even longer night for the running backs. So Antonio Williams is tailed right now to be the starting back tonight. His line is set at 42.5. The only way I think he even gets close to this is if he manages to get like a wheel route and it end up getting a long reception or a screenplay or something like that. But man, I am loving this under a whole lot for Antonio Williams. Last week he didn't have a monster game, another reason why I'm kind of confused why his line is so high. Confused because he didn't have a great week last week, or he had a great rushing performance last week. Excuse me, I mixed him up with the other running back. He had a great rushing performance last week. He had 9 carries for 61 yards, had 1 big rush. He won't get that 1 big rush this week with the offensive line being so banged up. So give me Antonio Williams under 42.5 yards rushing and receiving this week for our next play of the day there. Next up, we're going to head over to the Arizona versus Baltimore game. Give me Tyler Huntley today over 135 total yards. I thought really hard about fading Trace McSorley today. I know everyone's saying, Trace McSorley, former Ravens quarterback, Snoop and Lamar and McSorley, they all kind of know each other. It should be, a good battle between these teams. McSorley should show out. Here's the thing. He had a crazy week 1. He played the Bengals, who, their Bengals quarterbacks, between Burrow and, those boys, they don't really scramble. They're not scrambling quarterbacks. Trace McSorley is obviously a very mobile, scrambling quarterback. Ravens defense, who do they play all the time? Lamar Jackson and Snoop. They play guys that run around like crazy. They're super mobile quarterbacks. I feel like the Ravens defense is really going to lock up Trace McSorley. I ended up not going with it. I ended up going with Tyler Huntley over in his yards today. But I'm just telling you guys that if you guys are thinking about taking McSorley because he had a big game in week 1, I don't anticipate him to have another big game here today. So yeah, give me Huntley over in his yards. I do think this game is going to be super high paced between these two quarterbacks. Last week when Baltimore played Tennessee, a lot slower of a game because Tennessee likes to run the ball. They're a lot more slow and methodical team. The Ravens, obviously, are a fast-paced team, as well as the Arizona Cardinals are a very fast-paced team because of Trace McSorley. So I'm expecting a lot more offensive possessions between these two teams. They'll be going back and forth at it. I like the over a lot in this game a lot too. So give me Tyler Huntley over 135 total yards today. Feel like you'll have a good game passing and running the ball, so give me Tyler Huntley. And our last play of the day today, give me Tyler Huntley's brother, Jason Huntley. No, I'm just kidding. I have no idea if they're completely related, but I just thought that was funny because they both had the same last name. Give me Jason Huntley today. I went really back and forth between his fantasy points and his total yards. It's up in the air. I think you can do his fantasy points or his total yards. I think they're both going to hit. I originally wrote down fantasy points on my notes. Then I got to really looking at it, and I think I'm going to end up going with his yards, and I think I am. His yards are over 51.5. I'm loving this a lot from Jason Huntley today. Week 1, he accounted for 20 touches in week 1. Had 14.7 fantasy points and 87 total yards. Here's the thing, and this is the reason why I decided to not go with his fantasy points. He had 16 rushing attempts. His longest rush was only 8 yards, and he still managed to get all the way up to 48 yards rushing. And his longest rush was only 8 yards. A lot of time when these preseason guys get a lot of rushing yards because they ripped off one big one. He did not have a big one. 8 yards or eight yards being his longest rush is not that big. That means they just continued to feed him the ball, and he continued to pop off. 5, 6, 8, 7, 6. He just was getting solid yards every time down the field. Also was getting a couple of receptions. Had 4 total receptions as well. Did rip off one 24-yard long one, so he's probably not a super efficient receiving back, but they continued to give him the ball a lot in that first game, so no reason to think that they won't do the same thing again in this game. Also, Cleveland last week did give up one of the most yards rushing last week of the preseason. They gave up 77 yards rushing. So I'm anticipating Cleveland to kind of struggle to stop the Philadelphia Eagles from running the ball. So I'm liking Jason Huntley today over 51.5 total yards rushing and receiving as our last play of the day today. All right, that means it's time to wrap it up here today. Our perfect 3-slip will be the lock of the day of Jalen Reagor over 2.0 receptions. Give me Antonio Williams under 42.5 yards rushing and receiving. And then give me Shemar Bridges of the Baltimore Ravens over 2.5 receptions. Rolling right over to our 5-slip, give me the 3-slip of Shemar Bridges, Antonio Williams, and Jalen Reagor. Then give me Jason Huntley over 51.5 yards receiving and rushing. And then give me Tyler Huntley over 135 total yards on the day to finish out our 3 and total 5-slip today. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up today's video. Thank you guys for everyone who's managed to stay through the channel through this summertime period. It means a lot to me. You guys really understand. I know things have been really hard through this summer, and I have not been able to post as many videos as I would obviously have loved to. But good news is that on the 31st of August, I should go back. It's official now. As long as some stuff doesn't go wrong. The 31st, I should start being able to post videos every single day once again. So on August 31st, anticipate me here in about a week and a half. Anticipate me to be able to post videos every single day. Anticipate that big time. I'm not stopping or anything like that. It's just because of how the summer's worked out. I haven't been able to make videos every day. But stay with me on this one, guys. I know I've even been ice cold the last couple of days. I don't think I've hit a play in like the last week or so. That's how it goes. Sometimes you have highs, you have lows. We ended August, red hot. Or ended July red hot. We've started August. We've had a little slump here in the middle of August, but it goes like that sometimes. Took a day off yesterday, reapproached some stuff. I'm feeling really confident in my plays today. So with that being said, guys, I will catch you guys tomorrow. Or not tomorrow. Oh, yes, tomorrow. I'm off tomorrow. I will catch you guys tomorrow. Peace.